have I ruled with fear? I intend to rule with respect.
Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 3 of my Star Wars show. I'm joined as usual by Andrew, and we're here for a little bit of a bonus episode because it's time to talk about the premiere of the Book of Boba Fett. Now, how we're doing this show is we're not doing this UMP garbage of a mid-season review. We're going to do premiere episode discussion, and all the way in a couple months when the show is over, we'll review it as a whole. But before we share our thoughts on episode 1 and show Tucker and Tanner how it's done, make sure you join our Discord, link in the description. As usual, if you want to talk to us about Boba Fett or anything else at all while you're down there, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. You know what to do. But Andrew, we have waited basically a whole year for brand new Star Wars content. They slipped it in right under the wire. Episode 1, Book of Boba Fett, high-level impressions. What do you think of the start of the show?
Okay, so I watched the episode twice. The first time for funsies, and then the second time with a little more kind of just trying to see what I missed. And one of our friends in the Discord server mentioned how there was way more flashbacks than what they expected there to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? The second time, it was very apparent. I guess the first time I was just kind of just like dazzled and wowed. But the second time, I'm like, we spend like the first, I want to say 10 minutes of the episode where Boba wakes up. No, we get those dope flashbacks to the movies, right? With him picking up his father's helmet.
Yeah.
The waves off of
Camino.
Thank you so much. I was gonna say my Gito, but no, I'm thinking Battlefront. Anyways, yeah. So we get the waves and everything, and then him unceremoniously, hilariously every single time falling to his doom, as we expect. And then he kind of just gets startled. I don't know if he was like in a coma, he got knocked out or something. He gets startled, awake. He looks around and stuff, punches his way out, burns his way out. And then that dope shot of just like the Tatooine desert, and then just like, man, kind of like a Dawn of the Dead style, like climbing out of the desert. Really dope shot. But then we go from there, and it's not till like after his failed escape plan when he finally gets confronted by that really unique looking Tusken Raider with like the black dreads or the black like cloth, gets knocked out. And then we finally get Fennec kind of waking him up from his Bacta tank induced sleep, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, like 1/3 of this entire episode was just flashbacks up to this point, and then he gets summoned to like do like the paying the respect stuff. Anyway, I'm not gonna recap the entire episode right now, but the point is there was way more flashback than I expected, and I think the fact that the episode's only like 30 something minutes kind of hurts the runtime a little bit. I think that kind of holds it back from being as like wow or as amazing it could have been. Honestly, it feels like this is a 7 out of 10 premiere.
Sure. Yeah. I believe I saw on Twitter that we go 7 minutes without any dialogue, and then we get a little bit. And I think that first line is talking that Rodian, who's also been taken by the Tusken Raiders. So a lot of the storytelling across the whole episode, but obviously that first not quite quarter of it, but a good amount of the beginning of the episode is very quiet. And I think what I like about this show so far is it feels very restrained. This is far more of a character study than I expected, and it's also a lot more of an unconventional look at who Boba Fett is than I expected. And because of that, I find this show to be a lot more interesting, frankly, than I really anticipated, because I think this show, definitely more than The Mandalorian, has been kind of getting that criticism of, small galaxy syndrome, playing on the nostalgia of Boba Fett, right? But I think for me, this first episode kind of contextualized him in a different way. This is not the sort of indomitable badass that Boba became basically for no reason, because we basically only see Boba do dumb shit in the original trilogy.
He's definitely no Din Djarin. Yeah, he's definitely
not. He's not. But we as a community, we kind of built him up to be that. And I think it would have been really easy to tell that story here. And pretty clearly, that's not what we're telling. This is an older, like out of shape and faded Boba Fett, who we see him take loss after loss in this first episode. And I think that's really interesting. I think that the fact that this episode is focused on characterizing Boba in what feels like a challenging way makes this show far more compelling to me. I think that the general setting of Tatooine is quite compelling here. I've always had the scum and villainy as old Ben calls it back in A New Hope to be quite compelling. So I think from those lenses, I'm very excited by the show. My biggest problem with it is that I believe it's 7 episodes about there. It's a short show. Mm-hmm. We do not cover much ground here. Sort of in terms of establishing the ethos of who Boba is, I think we cover a lot of ground. But from a narrative level, we don't really go anywhere. And that's not a problem for me as somebody who likes a character study in the Star Wars universe. But if we're going to try to tell a narrative, I'm just concerned about maybe like the Hawkeye issue of the back half of the show ends up being like plot point resolution. Yeah. Because we end up running out of time. So that's my main concern, because we only got 1 episode. I think if we had gotten 2 episodes, we could have gotten a better sense of how the show is going to move.
Yeah, I agree. Do we know if all the episodes are this short? Or
I don't think we do. The Mandalorian's episodes actually were pretty variable in terms of length, so yeah. I'm expecting it to be the same here.
Okay.
So
to touch on what you talked about, like about the narrative, about how we don't get that much, I feel like we are getting some of the setup though. Like, sure. I mean, one of the key lines from this episode is when they're exiting. Boba and Fennec just visited that establishment. I don't know if it's like a casino / like some kind of lounge area.
Yeah.
And he talks to Fennec and he says, "I'm trying to do my Tamara Morrison impression." It's like, "Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect."
Yes.
And so we get those flashbacks where we're not sure where we're going with the flashbacks up until the very end.
Yeah.
Where it seems like that paid off for Boba before, where he takes out the really crazy looking monster at alien
Mortal Kombat monster, yes.
Goro, yeah, right. And he kind of like, wins over the chief. I wouldn't say he wins him over completely.
Yeah.
But the chief kind of does a thing where he's like he doesn't say anything to him. He just like gives him like the little water pod thing. And so you can it seems like that's done for our benefit to show us that like this isn't the first time he's had to like win over opposition kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he did something that, help the young Tusken Raider with sawing off the head and everything. So it seems like Boba's kind of like, because I think what Fennec says like it makes sense, where she says when times are bad or something like that, like fear work is more efficient. And like if looking at studies about like what's a higher motivator, like fear or respect, and like it varies, but I think we kind of get an idea that it's not like Boba's just coming out of nowhere with this idea about respect, right? The flashbacks kind of serve to back that up. And so I get what you're saying, because it's like 35 minutes long, maybe? I forget how much of that is like the credits and all that. And it's kind of a not disappointing, I want to say, but it's definitely much, like you said, much smaller, nuanced, kind of character focused.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a tweet today that kind of made an interesting point about how a lot of like the Marvel shows and stuff like have kind of spoiled us with like a lot of like reaction, like worthy stuff in the beginning.
Thread.
Yeah. And how like we kind of need to get used to and acclimated to kind of adjust our expectations and kind of just be along for, the story, not so much for, like you said, small galaxy stuff. We're like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so, and like this thing happened. But that said, I still feel, had it been 10 minutes longer, I think that probably would have been used up much more efficiently.
Yeah, I agree. If we're talking about the same thread, this person was kind of talking about the episode structure servicing the story that this wants to tell, opposed to servicing a sort
Reactions.
of the let's get to the end of the episode so we see what character appears type of stuff. And of course we got that because we saw Max Rebo, so who can really be disappointed after episode 1? But in all seriousness,
I thought he went down with the barge. Was he not on the barge?
I'm pretty sure he was on the barge, which was why I was a little bit confused, because that's very clearly Max Rebo. But I thought when Luke just decided, hey, let's destroy the entire fucking sail barge, where Max Rebo's going down with the ship, but maybe he crawled out of the rubble, I guess. But to the point about the narrative, I find myself in this position where one of the reasons I thought that The Mandalorian was easy to watch week to week is because every episode had an entire plot. It was very much serialized.
Self-contained.
Yeah, it was serialized television in the traditional sense of okay, here's 30 to 45 minutes worth of narrative, and it's going to feed into a larger overarching series story, but it's also going to conclude its whatever its problem of the week was.
Villain of the week kind of stuff. Yeah.
This really felt more in line with what Marvel is doing, wherein effectively we're going to make you a movie and then we're going to just chop it at kind of convenient points and put it out. And that's why, for me, I ended up leaving the episode intrigued, but not feeling as though it, by its own merits, was a self-contained narrative. And because of that, that just opens up for me questions about pacing. It's not necessarily a criticism of what unfolds in the episode, because I think that's quite good.
Right.
Most of my issues are just kind of, let's make sure that we stick the landing here, because I'm more than happy to tell a very almost more cerebral and introspective, very much traditional Western-esque Star Wars narrative here, because that sounds really friggin' cool. This sort of redemption and establishment of Fett and his dynamic with Fennec. I think all that's going to be great. Let's just make sure we actually have time for it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking the same thing earlier today, where I was like, why did I love the Mandalorian so much? And I was like, oh yeah, that's right, because like every episode starts with a conflict and it's resolved by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
At most 2 episodes, right? The whole thing with the crate dragon, I think that was like 2 episodes. But like when he the heist, right? When they in the Mandalorian, where they hijack that Republic prison cruise or whatever,
yeah.
And then that gets resolved and taken care of by the end of the episode. So like, I understand what you mean, where that's kind of more like the wandering Ronin comes into town, takes care of the problem, moves on, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And with Boba Fett, it seems to be like, this is like long form, like it's going to be like more like the Godfather kind of thing, right? Because he's going to have like this, we've seen from the trailer already, he's going to have to sit down with the lieutenants and stuff, and they're going to like, kind of try to push their weight around and kind of like bargain with him. And we kind of get a little tease of that, right, where we get the mayor's representative. He's like, when he's leaving, he's like, I wouldn't be surprised if you get another reception or something. Like, I love that character. I don't know who plays him, but I love the whole like the overly like welcoming kind of like what do you call it, like, let me do everything by protocol kind of style, like very. But he has like, there's like a hint of sinisterness to like his delivery of everything.
Yeah.
Whoever that character is, I hope we see him again. But yeah, we kind of get like the breadcrumbs, I guess, sort of like what's going to be the issue, right? We have like the failed assassination attempt with those dudes with the laser shields and like the electric. I thought that was going to show up like way later. I was surprised to see that in this episode. I thought that was going to be something that's going to happen later on. And I thought like the lieutenant sit down stuff was going to be this episode. So I was surprised how things worked out. But we have that really dope rooftop chase with Fennec. She goes after him, and then she like jumps off, cuts him off at the end. And I like how like when Boba tells her like alive, like at least one of them, and she does that thing where she's like she rationalizes, I only need one of them, kicks off the dude off the roof, and like just brings in the other guy. So I hope you're right, Abram. I hope it does end up being a little less flashback heavy as we go, and a little more contained as we go. But I highly doubt it. I feel like this is going to be this story of Boba Fett trying to create this empire, not so much about him dealing with like day-to-day, like, smaller trivial stuff. What did you think of, do you have like, what were your like favorite moments of the episode, if you don't mind me asking?
My favorite moment of the episode is the scene when people are coming to pay tribute to Boba.
Okay.
And we see what everybody has to offer. That to me is where I think this show is really going to succeed, in the sort of political, like code-driven undercurrents of Fett's dealings with the people Tatooine.
The daimyo, right? They call him daimyo.
Yeah, I think all of that stuff really actually extending into his visit to, I believe he's in Mos Espa, to that establishment. All of that is so good because I love the aliens of Star Wars.
Yes.
And this show seems like it's really going to give them a lot of time to shine. In the ways we learn little things like about the customs in terms of who's bringing what to Boba and how he's going to be honored when he goes into this establishment, and they're going to clean his helmet, but then his helmet's going to come back with like basically the protection money in it.
It's like, Fennec's like, oh, yours is shinier than mine.
Yeah, I think that's where this show for me is going to become the most interesting in just this sort of interplay between characters, and that's what I love most about episode 1.
Yeah, that was really really great. I liked how I commented about this in the Discord server, but like when the Trandoshan shows up and he's like that's weird. Like I used to work for that guy, and the Fennec's like it's weirder for him, and like he's like tells him like, oh, I hope like you don't ever leave, and it's like, and I love like we get that little character, that little moment where he kind of like gives us like a little more lore about the Trandoshans. He's like, even when a Trandoshan compliments you, it sounds like a threat.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, that's cool. Like we kind of get an idea of like how this particular race like carries themselves or like does like business. So I like that little like kind of little snippet thrown in there. I like how you're right. We have Boba Fett comes out and he's basically just stripped of everything. He loses his armor, he loses all of like pretty much his equipment, and he's just being dragged. And it reminds me of it's funny because you mentioned westerns earlier. Have you ever seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Abram?
I haven't. No.
Okay, because the scene where he's being dragged by Bantha with the rope and everything,
Yeah.
and then where he has to dig in the ground and all that stuff. I could almost swear all of those scenes are taken straight out of that movie, because Clint Eastwood's character goes through a very similar thing where he gets dragged by a horse and he has trouble keeping up in a sandstorm, and then like his captor forces him to dig while also wasting water, like when throws away the little water pot for the creature. I feel like all of those are nods to like that movie.
Definitely.
So I feel like there is some kind of like Western influence. And then Boba Fett's character, have you by any chance seen there's like a little thing on Disney Plus that's like half an hour long about like the story or the background of Boba Fett kind of stuff about
the documentary, what is it called? Under the Helmet? I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
It's really interesting because they talk about how like a lot of Boba Fett, like his poncho, like he even has spurs, like you don't see them, but like in The Empire Strikes Back, in that dining room where he shows up behind Vader, like on Cloud City, like you can hear the jangling of his spurs. So like a lot of the stuff is not just, there's no way it's coincidental.
No.
A lot of it is just very Western based, and as someone who loves Western films, like I love all the little nods and stuff. So that I love that takeaway that I got from that. But I like how he has a little moment with the little, I don't know what those things are called. We see him in Attack of the Clones, that little like dog lizard creature thing.
Yeah.
And then like after he knocks it out, and the next day he's like no hard feelings, and it just like growls at him. Like the more I'm like, talking about this, I actually think I like the episode more than I thought at first, because there is like things that I'm talking about it with you where I'm like, oh yeah, like I did enjoy that. It's just, I think like you said, it's just like it needs to be a little bit longer and then less flashbacky, but that's what I got to say for now.
Yeah, I think I also really enjoyed the episode a lot. I feel like for a service as rich as Disney Plus is, the week-to-week format we don't have to do. If this entire show had dropped yesterday, the first season of it, or even if they did like 2 drops, I think that would have been fantastic. Because as I'm about to talk about, it's these small moments that work so well, and I would have liked to had a bigger collection of small moments to pull from, opposed to just like 35 minutes, as you're saying, of them. So that's a bigger problem I have with Disney Plus, in addition to the fact that they drop these episodes at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is infuriating. I wish
midnight
it was
midnight for me.
See how music is, how games are, is it's midnight for me, 9 for you, and that just works so much better for everybody. But I digress. It's the little character moments that I think really sold this, and what I'm going to be waiting for next week. Because we talk about how Boba's going to rule through respect. That's sort of the creed he's going to bring to the syndicate. But I like how we see multiple edges of Tamora Morrison's portrayal here. Because as you're saying, he can quip with the Tusken Raider's pet. He can be very cordial in these settings in Mos Espa. But when he gets attacked, he's going to shoot you with a fucking wrist rocket into the side of a building and blow you up.
That was dope.
It's all of these little things that they do to paint this complicated picture of Boba that makes that first episode so interesting to me. So that's another little moment I would drop in the hat of compelling, just even shots that do a lot of the storytelling here, which is just a refreshing way to have a Star Wars story told to me, especially in an era where The Rise of Skywalker is simply exposition and exposition, exposition, exposition. Or we get to the Mandalorian, which I love the Mandalorian, but I think even the second half of season 2 became incredibly referential. It was, hey, here's Bo-Katan, which is cool, and Ahsoka, which is cool, and then here's Luke. And I felt like by the end we'd gone a little bit too far, and we'd sort of lost the Mandalorian in the process. But this was all about, other than seeing Max Rebo or other than seeing a little nod here, a Gamorrean guard there, it really was, let's just take our time to tell this very in-universe story that is told through these little things that Boba does, these little interactions. And that's super special.
Did you get when he enters a little place and like they're playing, like you can kind of, it's different, but it's very similar. It's like a variation of the Cantina beat kind of little theme. I like that. And then you mentioned the music. You mentioned music because you were talking about 3 a.m. But did you bother listening at all to like the ending credits like theme?
I listened to him a little bit, but what I was more captured by was the opening
concept
song.
art. Oh,
the concept art.
Okay.
Yeah, first of all, the concept art is always awesome. That's such a great thing to add.
I love that stuff.
But the music for the show is great, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if it's. I know it's. He worked on it too because Ludwig. I think his name is Goranson. I can't pronounce his name, Goranson. But he. I love his music when he does it. He has it also the dope theme in Mandalorian. But I'm not sure if he's responsible for all the music or if he's just like contributed to it. But he's like one of my favorite composers for. If you've ever seen Creed or Creed 2, he does the same music. He uses horns to great effect. A lot of horns in his music, and just hearing like the ending theme, I'm like, it's not. I don't like it as much as the Mandalorian theme, but I can tell like, oh yeah, this is his work because it has like the very grandiose kind of bombastic like dun, 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 like kind of like I love really the music in Star Wars for me is probably not more important, but I'd say the music has so much to do with Star Wars in terms of iconic moments, and it's just so intrinsically tied to Star Wars that I think whenever you're going to use music in Star Wars, it just has to hit, because in like music in other movies, I don't really like care about really. I'm not a big into composers, but for me, like Star Wars has a unique sound to it. Not just what John Williams does, but also just kind of like each character in each location like has to have like something where as soon as you hear it, like you're already thinking of that person or that thing. So I kind of ranted a little. Went off topic there, but because you mentioned music, so that's I was thinking about that. But yeah, the opening, right? We don't get the title card until like they already drag him off, right? I think, or they beat him, or is it when he gets headbutt? No, with the rifle, or around there somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's around. Is it when he gets hit with the gaffy stick and he tries to escape? The point is, it's a while. This show does not begin with all right. With the card. I'm curious
to see. I imagine we're gonna get some more flashbacks, because where we see Boba in Mandalorian, where he has like the robes, he has the gaffy stick, and then the other, I think, has like a rifle slung on his back. Yeah. Like we're gonna see him get to that point, and then it's so jarring seeing how he looks at first, where he's like so pale and his skin's all pink and mutilated, and then you see him come out of the back to tank, and he's like all like smooth and tan again. So I thought that was an interesting touch to kind of show like how much the Sarlacc's like acids have worked him over and stuff. So anyways, you mentioned that at the beginning when you were talking about your overall thoughts, but I thought that the Sarlacc Pit scene was done very well. That was again another moment of excellent restraint. We know we're in the Sarlacc Pit, and we don't need to see him ripping up all of its insides and then flying off.
No, all we needed to see was exactly what we saw. The punching through like its guts, to the flamethrower, to the cut to the hand. Fantastic. That's why the show is working for me. That's all really great stuff. And the music is great. I suppose the last thing we ought to touch on are Tamora Morrison and Ming-Na Wen, who I think are both great. Tamora Morrison gives he does this sort of restraint very well. I'll be curious to see him sort of break beyond that a little bit more. He can get angry well. He can communicate that sort of tension, that adrenaline state, and he carries the dialogue, I think, all right. Ming-Na Wen, though, I think she's really great, And so I think I can sort of see where the chemistry is going. And of course, we see some of that in Mandalorian, but I'm excited for more moments of them interacting. So I think they both put in pretty strong performances here.
Yeah, I want to see how he's going to differentiate from playing Jango to what his approach will be with Boba, because he's obviously played both characters. And I'm just wondering, like, what's the direction from like the director, like what's the cues, like what's something that Boba would do that would be different from like Jango, right? Because he's doing the thing where like as some men do with it, they get up there in their ages and they have a midlife crisis and a change of careers, right? He's no longer, I didn't show it, he's no longer a bounty hunter, right? He's going in to be a crime lord, which sounds funny to him, like when he has like that moment, he's like tribute to him, like I'm supposed to be the crime lord. And that line for me just seems kind of funny to me. I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but the whole like I'm the crime lord, like okay, you're not quite there yet. You don't have this like thing figured out. Whereas like Jango Fett was like a bounty hunter his whole life. So I'm just wondering what the direction is going to be, how he's going to approach Boba. And like you obviously probably know more about Boba than I do, having seen like more of the Clone Wars than I have. And I know Boba shows up, and so I'm wondering if there's going to be like stuff about Boba's character in this that might be reference to Clone Wars or Rebels. I don't know if he shows up in Rebels, but like if there's anything that's like the rest of us who didn't see all those, are we gonna miss out on? I hope not, but that would be nice for the people who are like have stuck with every single bit of like Star Wars animation to kind of get rewarded for that. So I'm just curious to see what they do with his character in terms of like how should Boba as a crime lord act compared to Boba Fett, the bounty hunter.
Yeah, we'll find out. I mean, I had actually forgotten he was in Clone Wars because we see a very young Boba Fett in that show. Right. And he's compelling. Ultimately, it kind of could have been any little kid in some of those episodes. So I think the larger point of it is Boba Fett is not established very strongly. We see, of course, we see him established kind of aesthetically and sort of tacitly in original trilogy. We get young Boba Fett, who's like super headstrong in Clone Wars. I don't believe he shows up in Rebels. I'm racking my head, but I don't think he does. And then, of course, then we see him in Mandalorian, but beyond where he is here in Book of Boba Fett. So they really do have a lot of room to play with the character. And I already think they're doing a good job. Like I said, I like this idea that he is not what you would consider when they made the whiteboard that says Boba Fett TV show, the sort of bullet points I would put under that are not here. And that's very compelling because in the case of like the Obi-Wan show, which I'm excited about, Obi-Wan is kind of a defined character already. We know we're just
step in his life.
We know where he came from, where he's going, and we have a lot of data points there. So we can pretty much know where Ewan McGregor's going to take that character. It's going to be more about the plot there. Here, it really is more about contextualizing the character. So I don't really have any predictions because I don't think we quite know yet whether or not his respect angle is going to pay off, whether or not he's actually going to become as domineering as Jabba was. So, or even we don't really know how Bib Fortuna was. So we'll see. That's again why I'm excited for more of the show.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Like, I know not everybody loves Solo, but I'm hoping like we might get some Crimson Dawn stuff in there. I don't think Emilia Clarke is going to show up, of course, but some kind of like, because we have that scene where when he's captured and he goes with the young Tusken Raider and the Rodian, where they go to like the little moisture farm that's being raided by the. I'm certain we're going to see those guys because I think they show up in the trailer with the swoop bikes and everything with those raiders that do the tagging or whatever like they're up to. I'm wondering if like because of the power vacuum now with Jabba, and I don't know how long Bib Fortuna ruled, but I'm wondering if we're going to kind of see like are we going to see other criminal syndicates kind of get involved in stuff? We don't have. The black, was it the one that Prince Zizor's in charge of, the Black Sun or whatever? Do you remember what's the name? Is that the same thing?
It's Black Sun, right? And Crimson Dawn are the two different ones. I'll do a quick Google, but I'm pretty sure it's Black Sun.
Because I know Darth Maul takes out like the heads of the, but I'm not sure if did they get. See, this is where like my memory kind of gets a little fuzzy because I don't remember if he might be assimilated both together or if he absorbed one and put into the other. Because none of the like Shadows of the Empire, that stuff is not canon anymore, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's, or maybe I don't. Oh man, okay. This is where I get confused.
Yeah, the Black Sun. The Black Sun, I'm pretty positive, is separate from Crimson Dawn.
Okay. There's a lot of sun things going on here with
Yes.
the names, the alliteration, and all that.
It does.
So I'm wondering.
It opens up that question though. Could Darth Maul be, because there is going to be a character, you know, there's going to be the kingpin for this show.
Well, like in the comics, Emilia Clarke, I forget her name. Emilia Clarke's character, it does take over after Darth Maul gets killed by Obi-Wan in Rebels. So
He's dead at this point because Rebels.
Yeah, he's dead already. Yeah,
right,
he's already dead at this point. So I'm thinking she's supposed to be like I mean, in the comics at least, she's still like the head figure. Someone, but I just don't know if Emilia Clarke showing up, that'd probably be something will get leaked. I'm thinking or something. I don't know, but I guess that's the cool thing about Star Wars is when they make new stuff is you have no idea where it's gonna go. So.
Yeah. I guess the last question is: do you have any speculation about who the mayor is? Because that's kind of on people's minds. Because obviously the mayor has got to be some kind of force. They're pretty clearly setting up that tension between Boba and whoever this person is. I don't personally have any real thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of anybody. I'm trying to remember where was I can't remember his name. The guy who wore Boba Fett's armor before him, the Cod. The guy who's played by Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah, the ward. Who is he? The marshal.
Yeah, there you go, the marshal. I wonder if there's any connection there.
If I remember, wasn't the marshal he had that armor and he was just protecting his homestead way out? So I would be surprised that's it. My big question is, where's Rada the Hutt? Is he still alive? That's the big question.
I don't have anything about right now. You mentioned Mos Espa, just real quick. That scene where they show the entire town like from like above, like it goes in and sees it, like that is way bigger than I expected, because I remember we see it in Phantom Menace and it's like barely like a small little like tiny village it looks like, and then we just see like the racing course. Like was that supposed to be Mos Espa? Because in my head I just didn't picture it being like that, like fleshed out and huge and stuff. So that was interesting, but I don't know anything more about the Hutts. That's beyond my knowledge, Abrams. So,
well, Rada the Hutt is the dumb nephew of Jabba the Hutt.
The one with the weird tattoos and stuff.
No, the baby from the Clone Wars movie, who Ahsoka calls Stinky. And
I do remember who that is.
I want him to grow up and be back for his revenge. That's what I want. That's what I want the narrative of this show to be. Give me Rada the Hutt.
Do you think there's any monsters still down there in the? Because there's that moment where we get where Fennec threatens the mayor's representative about like, you wouldn't speak such insolence to Jabba. He would feed you to his menagerie. And I was like, it's like, is there anything down there? I wonder if there's anything still down there.
Who knows?
After the Rancor, but I doubt it. So, anyways,
we'll see. Anything else you want to say about the episode?
Oh, what do you think? Yeah, we didn't really touch upon it about the stuff with the Tusken Raiders. Like, what's going on there? Do they? I know, like from Attack of the Clones, like they just enslave people for just random reasons to do stuff. But like, I wonder what is the angle of having him in the Rodian there? Like, is there some kind of? Because they don't really do anything. It doesn't seem like they're like making them do anything. They're kind of just like toying with them.
Well, so I don't know. My kind of interpretation of it is that this is just sort of like character development and trauma that has been in Fett's past that we're just referring back to as sort of the moment that like catalyzed the Fett he became now. I don't really expect it to come back. What I was actually interested in is I thought for a minute that they were going to go full Return of the Jedi, and it was going to be Fennec in that Tusken Raider gear who takes him out, and they were going to escape together. That's what my thought process was actually. Ended up not being the case, but my assumption is that this is just a past chapter of his life, and it's not going to come back. That said, I like how both this show, but much more Mandalorian, does a lot to like humanize the Tusken Raiders, who have been largely treated as this sort of just like animalistic Force.
That's right. Din does like the sign language and the That's right. I forgot.
They have to work
that.
together to take down the crate dragon and everything.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It does seem like a step back, right? To kind of like make them seem more like savage than like how Din like dealt with them.
I think what's good at least here is they're not doing the original trilogy of the gaffy sticks above the head and the
So we don't call them sand people anymore. We call them sand people.
That's all in the past. They're not just whacking people and calling it a day. I like that we sort of, again, going back to how the show is telling a lot or showing a lot without telling it. The sort of hierarchical relationship that was developed between that young Tusken Raider who's inexperienced and the older ones, and just a simple acts of passing over the water fruit and everything. So I like how they were used. I just don't expect them to come back.
I was trying to see if they were doing the thing that Obi-Wan says, is like they always walk in single file to hide their numbers.
Oh, right.
I didn't really see that. I think they just did it with the bantha when like they're dragging him. So I was wondering if that it only extends, like they were in a line, but like when they chase. Well, I guess chasing Boba, it doesn't etiquette doesn't matter at that point. But I was like looking out. I was like trying to see like the second time I watched it, I was like looking for like any single like reference or anything that like Easter eggs that stuck out. But like I couldn't find that much. Shout out to the super loyal Gamorrean guards at the end. They came in clutch. I was nervous when Fennec said like that's not a good idea, like forgiving them and like taking them into service. And then he's like, it paid off. It paid off. Yeah. So I like those little guys. They're funny. They just they just pull him, take him to like his back to tank and stuff. Like it's like take me to the back. Then he's like, they're just like, I don't know. I think they're like really funny. I always thought the Gamorrean guards characters are just like really funny looking. They're just like green pigs. So, but that's all I got on the matter.
Yeah, I think I'm about out too. We'll see next week. I'm very excited. This will be how I start my Wednesdays for the next month or so. 2 months?
About 2 months, yeah.
About 2 months. I will be in California for episode 3, so I might stay up for that one. Be a little bit more adjusted to the time zone, but for the most part, I'll have to wake up, dodge spoilers really quick as I make breakfast. And then watch
West Coast,
show.
Best Coast. I'll just say that.
I've become more neutral on the matter the more time I've spent in California, but
fair enough.
But I think that's about all we have for episode 1. Again, if you want to share your thoughts about the show, be sure to join the Discord, subscribe. We've been growing at a pretty good rate recently, and I'm going to attribute all that growth to my Star Wars show, so prove me right and subscribe off this video. But Andrew, for another great discussion, we will be back for the traditional episode. Keep in mind the show is typically bi-weekly, but we made an exception for Boba Fett, and then we'll be back, of course, once the show is done, to do an entire recap, review, discussion of whatever happens next. We'll talk about how Cad Bane is going to show up.
But, don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that, man.
But Andrew, it's become a habit. We're going to get it out of here, and
may the Force be with you.